All right, welcome back into Rasslin on Barstool Sports. I am Brandon Walker, and today is a very special day for me because I get to, I'm in Jacksonville for AEW Revolution, and I was at Dynamite on Wednesday night. Incredible show. Shaq was in the first match. It went over, I don't know what my expectations were for it, but it exceeded those expectations. I thought it was a really good event, and they've got a clip of Shaq going through a table that they can show for the rest of time. It was absolutely incredible. But it's a big day for me today because I get to interview some of the bright stars of right now, as far as MJF. I got Lance Archer, I got Chris Jericho, and I also get to celebrate my past as a wrestling fan, my present as a wrestling fan, by talking to some legends of the game. I got one of those legends right now. He is AEW announcer Tony Schiavone. Tony, thank you for joining me.
Brandon, thanks. I appreciate that. The Shaq thing was quite spectacular, wasn't it?
So I came in tonight. I was lukewarm about, I'm being honest, I was lukewarm about Shaq wrestling. I always get nervous when celebrities are in the ring.
Oh, yeah.
I always wonder if they're going to get it, if they're going to really be able to add to the product, and Shaq got it.
Yeah.
Shaq knew what to do. Shaq knew how to play the crowd. He's got charisma for days.
Oh, my gosh.
And
Great.
anytime you got charisma in a package that big, it's hard to mess that up, and Shaq certainly didn't mess it up. And the way it went off, I didn't know what they would do. It's Cody. The way it went off with Cody and Shaq going through the table, and then you leave the two very talented young women in the ring to settle it, and I thought it told a great story.
Yeah, it did. I told Cody before the match, and I had talked to him weeks before this. I said, two options here, and both are not good. Number one, you get hurt, and it's a big story in wrestling. Number two, Shaq gets hurt, and it's a big story worldwide. So realize that.
I mean, you've called celebrity matches before that didn't come close to living up to what that was last night. I thought that was it blew my expectations away.
Yeah, and for all the people online who said it was going to be bad, they were wrong.
They were.
Right.
As people online tend to be sometimes. But
Right.
One of the special things that has happened to me on this trip, I got to watch Backstage, and it was an absolute sellout. Like all the wrestlers were standing watching. They were wondering what it was going to be like too. And when the table spot happened, that might have been the loudest, most genuine reaction I've ever heard.
Yeah.
They went nuts.
Yeah, it was good.
It was absolutely crazy. So I've got Tony Schiavone, and I got to ask you off the top. It's rare that the universe lines up certain ways. Last night, Tully Blanchard makes his return to the ring.
Something else.
Arn Anderson comes out. J.J. Dillon is there, and we know the news that happened elsewhere. It's just so incredible that on the night the Four Horsemen reunite. It's almost like such a special tribute nobody saw coming.
Yeah.
Jim Crockett passed
away, right?
Passing away last night. But Tully Blanchard's as pro gets, and he looked incredible in the ring. Last night was really special to me as a fan. I was wondering about your perspective.
It was very special to me. The whole day was special because I got to reconnect with JJ. I got to, I see Tully all the time, and I see Arn. And not only that, some things that old school fans will really connect with. Tully was wearing the black robe that he wore back in 86, 87 on TBS, 85. And he wore the old silver,
the belts,
the U.S. belt. And I had to explain, he's not a champion right now, but that's the championship belt he had during the I Quit match with Magnum TA in 1985. So it was all really special. And that's one of the special things about working for this company, that they appreciate the past.
AEW has a reverence for the past that is hard to... It's hard to quantify because I don't go into shows hoping I see J.J. Dillon. But when I see him and I see Tully and I see Arn coming out, because Arn's with Cody, like there's no reason for Arn really to come out during that moment, but it would be disingenuous if AEW didn't send him out and do this.
Right.
And AEW knows that, and they lean into it, and I thought it was very, very well done.
It was well done. I didn't know Arn was coming out. I walked out the other side because I had a... interview with Paul White right afterwards, which was kind of funny because they were coming out of the ring and I was trying to get Paul White in, and it was one of those things that happens in live shows, right?
So I didn't, I watched live in the arena, so I don't know if your one-liner to JJ saying you're not getting paid extra for that. I don't know if that made TV or not.
Yeah,
that was for us in the crowd.
It made TV and it made social media big time.
Okay, good. Well, that was...
Someone made a GIF out of it already.
Very funny.
I felt bad about that because that was just kind of an ad-lib line, and JJ and I forever had given each other such a hard time backstage. And so now I was taking that out and putting that, so I thought maybe I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, but it was lighthearted.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So one thing that I notice when I watch AEW, particularly with you and JR. How much fun are you having right now?
Well, I'm having the time of my life.
Yeah.
I'm having the time of my life for a couple of reasons. Because I'm back doing what I really, really love. Baseball was my number one passion always, and wrestling was right there next to it. That's number one. And number two, I'm connecting with JR. But number three, I appreciate my lot in life right now. A lot of people are without work, and I'm able to provide for my family and on a regular basis, and work with people that I really enjoy working with. So there's many factors that goes into having a good time right now.
Yeah, and it comes across on TV.
Yeah,
like
well, good.
There were times at the later stages of your WCW Nitro days where you could tell.
Yeah,
I'm not sure Tony Schiavone was happy to be there.
No, I hated it.
And you could tell that on TV. But now I just see joy from you. I see it from JR. I see it from Excalibur. I see it from everybody on that announce desk, and it really comes across and helps the product.
Yeah.
So you mentioned wrestling being one of your loves. So 18 years you weren't in wrestling.
That's right.
Looking back now and how much fun you're having, do you regret the 18-year absence, or do you think it was necessary to appreciate this?
Well, I regret some of it because there have been so many great matches that I missed, and so many great calls by JR that I missed. I go back, thanks to the network, and watch it and listen to some of the things. I feel bad. I missed most of Cody's career because I did, all his time in the WWE. I feel bad about that, but I really wanted to try to reinvent myself, reinvent my career, because back then, it's not the way it is now. I think wrestling is appreciated more on a national level than it used to be. Barstool Sports has a wrestling part.
Right.
All the major sports websites have wrestling. So back when I left wrestling, I knew it would be tough for me to get into something else.
Yeah.
Because I'm a
So it
wrestling.
was treated as an oddity back then, right?
That's right, yeah. Because he's a wrestling announcer. So I really saw that as a challenge.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to do something else. And I know the WWE didn't want me, and that was fine. So it was out of necessity, and I want to move on. But I do think that I missed some parts of it. I really do.
Did it take you long to relearn the cadence of calling wrestling, or the pacing, because calling wrestling is different from calling anything else. Or did you just right back into it?
Well, I think that there's a part of me that got back into it, but it changed so much in those years I was gone. There are so many different moves. I mean, it's more acrobatic than it used to be, with dives over the top rope and doing different moves. And Excalibur, who works with us, knows all the moves.
Yes, he does.
Every one of them. And
I think he makes some up sometimes.
Oh, of course he does.
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
He said something the other night. I'm like, you just made that up.
Right, exactly.
All right.
Yeah. Our job has been making up a lot of stuff for years.
That's a good point.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the first person that said vertical suplex, I mean, he probably made that up, right?
Yeah,
Years ago.
that's true.
Okay. He's so good, and it makes me want to get better. It makes me want to learn the moves.
So I have a couple. I don't know if you like talking about WCW. I don't want to spend a lot of time.
I'll talk whatever you want.
But I just there's when I started this podcast about 3 months ago, I have 2 podcasts at Barstool. I do our college football podcast, the #1 college football podcast in the world, and I do wrestling, which is I love wrestling. I wanted to share my passion with it, and I wanted to do that. So I started a couple of months ago. And I started for this reason. I'm 41 years old.
Really?
Yes.
You look a day over 40. Go ahead.
Thank you. So I got into this business, like media, on camera and stuff, because of one man. His name is Bobby the Brain Heenan. He is my favorite wrestling personality ever.
Sure.
Anytime I am able to talk about him or whatever, anytime I get somebody that worked with him, I just have to ask, what was Bobby Heenan like?
Well, Bobby Heenan was a complete jokester everywhere we went. He made it he liked to entertain people, as you saw on TV. But for those of us who rode with him, he liked to entertain us too.
So it never stopped?
No, it never stopped. I tell the story often that we had a Nitro in Pensacola, Florida.
Sure.
And
that was probably a bad idea to start with.
Yeah, okay, absolutely. So it may have been a pay-per-view, but we had a big event in Florida, and we always took the first flight out in the morning. So wanted to get back, had to work in the office, he wanted to get back home, first flight out. So back then, you couldn't check out with your app, right? You had to go to the desk and get your folio to check out. So Bobby was in line with all of us. I'm telling you, we're talking like 4 a.m. There's a line of people, wrestlers and production people trying to, and so Heenan's behind me. And there's this guy who's buffing the floor with one of those big buffers.
Because this is when you do it at 4 o'clock in the morning.
4 o'clock in the morning. And what are all these people lined up for? And right underneath the desk, like that wall plug there, it's plugged right under the desk. It's plugged right where we're walking, big orange extension cord. So Heenan says, watch this. And when Heenan would say, watch this, if we'd be into a grocery store or we'd be into a convenience store, I knew something was up.
Right.
So I'm thinking, what does he have in mind? So as we're walking slowly, he is taking the extension cord and wrapping it around his foot. Okay?
All right. So he's setting up.
He's setting it up.
Right.
Okay? And as I step away, I get my folio, I step away, he steps up and then does a pratfall, trips, okay? Okay? The buffer goes shoo, right out of the guy's hand, okay? It doesn't go far, it doesn't go across the room, but it goes shoo, right out of his hand. He comes up and he's got this orange extension cord like it's a python wrapped around his neck, okay? And he's fighting with his extension cord like the thing is alive, okay? And he's doing like this, and we're all like just dying laughing. And he's taking it, and he finally goes, takes it and just throws it down like he won, okay? And then to make matters worse, there's all these different things on the front desk, like placards or things that hold cards and things, okay? He steps forward, goes, and
just knocks them all
down. And he looks at the person and said, sorry, it was a tough night last night.
So that's what's incredible about that story is that he puts so much on camera, on Nitro, on WWF. He puts so much funny stuff. But just the stuff I saw on camera is probably, 1/100th of the funny stuff he did in life. You guys got to see the behind-the-scenes stuff and all that. There's a clip, an old WCW Saturday Night clip, and I'm probably going to play it on this podcast. It's on YouTube. It's about 5 minutes long. And it's Tony Schiavone and Bobby Heenan calling a Hacksaw Jim Duggan match, and I'm curious if you remember it. It's one of my favorite clips ever. When I'm having a bad day, I play it.
When he laughs the whole time?
You say the words, I talked to Jim Duggan, and he's a really intelligent man, and Bobby Heenan just laughs the entirety of the show. The entirety of the match, he laughs. And you make it about 2.5 minutes in before you start to, like you can't handle it anymore. But you remember that.
Oh, yes, I do. Yeah, it's a famous clip.
That is one of my favorite clips of all time. We're just going to play it because I got to have people hear that. Because I had never heard it until like 3 years ago.
Right.
And it's so funny. So,
did you ever see the clip where he was, a lot of times during Nitro, during the NWO era, Hall and Nash or Bischoff would come out and chase us away.
And run you guys off,
And there was one clip where he tried to roll over the desk and he got his foot caught. Okay? I'm standing there looking at him like that. And it's like...
that's classic stuff. Well, one more WCW question. I want to get back to AEW. The Yeti is a famous call. I don't want to ask about that call.
No, go ahead.
What I want to ask about is, did you know that the Yeti was going to be a mummy?
Yeah.
You knew it was going to be a mummy?
Yeah.
Like, they hyped up the mummy and he was in this ice, right? They hyped up the Yeti, he was in this ice, right? And the ice cracked, correct?
The night of when he walked out?
Well,
during the Dungeon of Doom.
During the lead up to it.
The lead up to it, yes.
But the night, so he walks out, I think, is it the end of Halloween Havoc? Am I getting that wrong?
Yeah, it's Halloween Havoc in Detroit, yes.
So he walks out and I'm thinking, all right, the Yeti, and he's a mummy.
Yeah.
It's like, how can you even straight call that if he's a mummy?
Right. I didn't straight call it.
I guess you didn't.
I didn't. I called it the Yeti. Right. Which was my code word for, boy, this thing sucks.
I always wondered about that because I was like, is Tony just really excited about seeing a Yeti, or is he's just...
No.
That was you saying, guys...
I'm with you on this one.
Yeah.
I think also the same show, Paul White fell off the building.
Yeah.
And he survived. And he walked back in, he wasn't even wet because we said he fell into the Detroit River. So I'm thinking, if Paul White's alive and the guy's coming out dressed as a mummy, what can I say to try to make it seem real? The hell with it.
Well, anytime you start off a pay-per-view match with a monster truck fight, I guess all believability is kind of out the window there.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't think I was watching live, but I saw the furor online, what we had online at the time, and it was like he fell off the building. He fell off the roof.
Yes,
I'm thinking they must have did the show in a one-story house.
Yes.
But no, it was the Cobo Arena, right?
Right, Cobo Arena, and I guess there was a crash pad on the ledge down, and it looked
what kind
like
of crash pad you need for Paul White?
you guys need a couple of them,
Right.
Because he was much bigger then than he is now.
Yeah, he was.
I mean,
he was he was
Yeah.
a thick boy.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get back to AEW a couple times, and famously in WCW, sometimes the announcers weren't in the loop. You didn't know what was going to happen.
Right.
But I'm curious about AEW. How involved are you guys in the process?
What I realized very quickly that Tony doesn't want to tell us anything.
Okay. So he would like just to get the pure reactions
Right.
as much as he can.
He has production meetings with us right before we go out, and he doesn't really say anything that happens. Sometimes I'll go to Cody and ask, is there something in your match that you want us to say?
Right.
Or I'll go to the Bucks, I'll go to the Kenny Omega, or Jericho, and I'll go to them individually. And I think Tony maybe trusts me enough that I've been doing it long enough that I will go to these guys if there's something big to find out what's going to happen, the direction I want to go with this, or I want to go the same direction they do. Because all the guys here have so much input in their creativity. And that's one of the great things about working here.
I tell you what I noticed last night, and I've been backstage at certain shows, certain companies. Last night, it's family is a very cliche thing, but it's a very tight knit group.
Yes.
It's a group that is really like the top of the card guys, the bottom of the card guys. They seem to see eye to eye. They seem to be all on the same team. Everybody it's team.
Right.
And that's. I don't know how you've been in the backstage a lot. That seems unusual to me for any business, not just wrestling.
Right.
But do you notice that?
Yeah, I can tell you this. You talked about this earlier when I was at WCW and unhappy.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go to the events. I didn't
Right.
want to be there. I look forward to coming here all the time.
Right.
And it is a family atmosphere, and I can say very truthfully it's a family atmosphere because I proposed to Dr. Britt Baker to be my wife. She's turned me down.
Yeah.
I told you, Britt, I would say your name. No, I'm kidding. It is a family atmosphere. It really is.
And is that just because you want to get that dentist money? I mean, dentists make a lot of money.
Oh, they sure do.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's got to be making more money than anybody.
I would think so.
Yeah.
She actually talked to me last night.
Did she really?
She did. And I thought, this is weird. Dr. Britt Baker's talking to me.
She wanted something from you then.
That's what I thought,
That's
because
right.
I got bad teeth. That's what it was. She saw a gold mine. So, but it's a great atmosphere there.
It's wonderful. It is.
And I enjoyed just it felt. You felt the sense of camaraderie backstage.
Yeah.
Like it felt like a group of friends getting together once a week.
Yeah, and here's what I do. I really make it a point all the time to do this. Every time we reconnect, every other week, I come back on a Tuesday or Wednesday, and I go backstage. I make it a point to say hello, especially to the young kids who are just starting the business, because they all appreciated my work.
Right.
And they all hold me in high esteem, and I appreciate that. And I want to let them know that I appreciate their efforts. When Sting first arrived, it was one of the biggest shocks ever. That was one of the best kept secrets. It was kept from me.
It was a great secret, yeah.
And when he walked from the trailer to the go position, or the gorilla position, we call it, with his makeup on, that's the first time he appeared backstage from his trailer. No one knew he was there. I was out front. So he walked him back, and the kids, I call them kids, they were going crazy.
Yeah.
And when he walked out, our wrestlers at ringside were giving each other high fives and hugging each other. It was tremendous. So I told Sting, I said, you need to go around and talk to these kids and say hello to them because you're a god to them. And so I think that's a good dynamic backstage that we have.
Well, it's rare for a new company to have legends of the business, because usually new companies don't have the ability to go get a Sting or a Tony Schiavone or a Jim Ross, and to have that mix of having the reverence for the business while also showcasing the up and comers. It's a hell of a mix.
Yeah, that's all Tony Khan. I mean, it comes from him. It comes from his love of the business, and he remembers every detail of my career, which blows me away. So
I don't want to brag, but I remember most of your career too.
Oh, thanks. You have the good and the bad things.
I don't remember much bad.
Okay.
I'm able to put it in the rear view. Although I do think you get a bad rap on one thing.
What's that?
Well, I think and you've probably talked about this every interview you've ever done. The butts in the seats.
Yes.
Everybody says, they turn 500,000 TVs changed at the moment. Well, you guys were going to commercial, right?
I can't remember.
You were going to commercial.
Okay.
You were going to commercial, and back then in 1998, 1999, when I'm watching Nitro and they go to commercial, I switch right to Raw.
Yeah.
When Raw goes to commercial, I switch right back to Nitro. So that's one of the unfair things. Like that people think, oh, they shouldn't have said that, they shouldn't have did that. Yeah, they probably shouldn't have said it. Whatever. WCW shouldn't have made the decision to say that. But the 500,000 people switching, I think, is a lying number because it was commercial. And 500,000 people probably changed every commercial because that's how spoiled we were back then. Having the you never thought about that.
No, you're ahead of your time.
Well, I'm.
You really are.
Grew up in Mississippi, man. We grow them fast.
I take that back.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't necessary.
Can I do a plug here? Because
Please.
Okay, so Butts and Seats has hung with me for quite a while.
Yeah.
And some people just say that'll put butts in seats. And I'm thinking, okay, that's old. But we've now come out, instead of a book about my career, we've come out with a graphic novel about my career, a comic book. It's going to talk about my career in wrestling.
Really?
Yes. And it's called Butts and Seats, the Tony Schiavone story. How about that?
That's a fantastic name.
Pre-order at buttsandseatcomic.com.
Buttsandseatscomic.com.
Yeah.
I will probably pre-order after you get up and leave.
There you go. And you can be notified of when it actually comes out. So it's hung with me, and I feel that it's the name of the comic. When they approached me with the name of the comic, I went, I'm not so sure. And then I thought, yeah, that's what I'm known for.
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So, and that's what wrestling announcers were supposed to do.
Yeah.
Put your butt in a seat to watch or go to the arena, right?
Well, you're also supposed to put over the company you're working for.
Exactly.
And that's what you were asked to do. So that's what you did. But again, I will take to my grave that commercial thing, man. I remember it vividly.
Yeah.
I think you guys were going out. You were talking on a bumper going out.
Right.
So anyway, I get all pissed off about
anyway, if all those did change and we did change the direction of the business, there were so many things that went into changing the direction of the business. That was one of them, but that wasn't a standalone.
No.
If we did that, then I feel that, hey, I'm part of wrestling history.
Right.
So what?
Well, you're part of wrestling history in a number of ways.
In many ways.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So my next question was, as I stalled to get my brain to tell me what the next question was going to be, because we were about to talk about something that I wanted to talk about.
That's okay. It's a Mississippi thing. That's okay.
So, glad you brought that up, because the neighboring state is Alabama. Alabama has a guy that you know very well. Let me tell you a quick story.
Okay.
So, I was doing the college football podcast and other stuff at Barstool, but I was just inspired by this outsider of the business who started a couple of podcasts the last couple of years named Conrad Thompson.
Yes.
And he did a passion project, and within 1 or 2 years, he's a major force in wrestling by using the podcast medium. And I know there's a lot of people across the country, why didn't I think of that? Well, he did, and he did it very well. You've been doing a podcast with him, What Happened When? That's a very good podcast. He also has 83 Weeks with Eric Bischoff. He has the new Kurt Angle podcast. He has
Grilling JR,
Bruce Pritchard,
Arn Anderson.
And like, I don't know how he finds the time, but he's got all these podcasts. I particularly love yours, To Throw It On, because you do a lot of rewatchables, or you've been doing a lot of, and so I throw those on at night when I'm watching the network. Talk about coming to work with Conrad, because he inspired me to do this particular show. And the day I started this, I DM'd him and said, you don't know me from anybody, but I'm at Barstool Sports, I have a big platform, I'm going to start a podcast, and I'm only doing it because you inspired me to do it, because of what you did. Talk about working with Conrad and what it's been like for you.
Well, it really brought me back to wrestling. When I look back at the people who have had impacts on my careers, obviously Jim Crockett, who just passed away, we talked about, and David and the Crockett family, and Frances, their sister. Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, impact on my career. Eric Bischoff did, Cowboy Bill Watts, Jim Ross. But Conrad Thompson's there too, because he kind of brought me back to wrestling.
Yeah.
When he got in touch with me at the beginning of 2017 and said, I've been doing a podcast with Ric Flair, and I'm going to end it because Rick doesn't really have time for it. Right. And I'm doing one with Bruce Pritchard. I'd like to do one about WCW with you. And I kind of went, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I really could have used the money to pay for my daughter's wedding. And it paid for my daughter's wedding.
I enjoy money. I don't know about you. I like making money.
Yeah, it works.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it works. And Conrad Thompson makes money, buddy.
Yes, he does.
So now here we are in season 5, and we're on Westwood One.
Yeah.
We've got a Patreon channel, which is like number 56 in the world in revenue. We all share into that, and it's just, and we do a lot of things. And he says, I'm a fan. and he is, but he's a fan that's smart enough to know what works and what doesn't. And he owns all these belts too. You know that, don't you?
I didn't know that
Yeah.
until yesterday when I walk out back at catering, and they're sitting, Bischoff and Conrad are sitting at a table with a couple other guys, and on the table is just like a shit ton of belts. There's like 5 belts.
Right.
I'm like, what is that? And then somebody said, oh, that's Conrad's belts. So, okay, Conrad's just carrying his belts around.
Yeah, well,
what I would do too.
That's what FTR and Tully came out with.
Right, yeah.
So, and those are the real belts.
Right.
The real belts that Tully and Arn had as champions.
That's unbelievable.
And the big gold belt that Ric Flair debuted in 1986.
Right.
He owns that too. So he owns. He's a belt collector, is what he is.
That's a pretty cool thing to
yeah,
collect.
it is, right.
Especially if you're into wrestling, and not just collect like replicas. He's got the belts.
The belts, right?
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So back to AEW. I know we're close on time. I'll let you go. You've been around this business for a very long time. I think AEW in 2021 probably is stocked with more possible breakout stars and future stars of any company I've ever seen. I can go down the list. MJF is on the cusp of breaking out. Hangman Page is right there to be huge. Darby Allin is breaking out right now. Orange Cassidy is fantastic. Will Hobbs when he gets his chance. Ricky Starks. On it, Jungle Boy.
Sammy Guevara.
Right. On and on and on. I could get to 10 or 15 before and that's just on the men's side. So you've been around this business. If you had to pick 1 or 2 breakout stars in 2021, who do you think you would pick?
I would pick Ricky Starks. I would pick Sammy Guevara, and I would pick Jungle Boy. Every time I say MJF's, I spit on MJF's name. I spit on the floor.
Yeah.
Marriott's
going to make you pay for that.
That's okay. Conrad will pay for it. Anyway, but MJF is just like phony. He even had a phony tan on last night, and some of it was rubbing off.
He was wearing khaki pants. Khakis are out now, Tony.
Well, he don't know. He's an idiot.
He just owns khakis?
He's an idiot. He just
look at me and you. I'm wearing jeans.
He probably doesn't have underwear on. Yeah, you can say that he is kind of a breakout star as well. There's no better bad guy in the business than him, really.
No, I'm actually talking to him later. My biggest question for him is,
are you really?
Yeah, he's right after you.
Is he really?
Yeah. So my question for him is going to be: are you a great heel, or are you just an asshole?
Yeah.
And I don't know the answer. But that's neither here nor there. Yeah. But the guys you said, I think Ricky Starks is ready to
phenomenal,
pop.
Yeah.
He's a guy that when he comes on the screen, you're looking at Ricky Starks.
Right.
No matter who's standing beside him, and he's got Brian Cage beside him, he's got Taz. You're looking at Ricky Starks, and that's innate. You can't teach that. And then Sammy Guevara, of course, from the very first, because I didn't really know the roster that well, but October 2019 when it debuted, Sammy and Cody were the very first match.
Right.
And I didn't know who Sammy Guevara was.
Right.
And I watched the match, and I'm like, this kid.
Sure.
This kid's got something. And by the end of the show, they had formed Inner Circle, and he was standing beside Jericho. I think this guy's got money written all over him, and he still does.
Yes.
And but I also think you didn't mention him, but because there's so many to mention, Orange Cassidy is going to go even higher than he's been.
Yeah.
I just love the young roster, man. And
I do too.
The roster mixed with the star power of Jericho and then the star power of Omega and Moxley. It really is a special thing.
Yeah. There's 2 ways. I've always said 2 ways to get over. The best way to get over is know how to talk, and that's obviously what Ricky Starks and MJF can do, and also is be able to work a match. And Jungle Boy, Sammy Guevara, and Orange Cassidy are very good at that. Once they develop to be able to talk, they'll get even better.
Well, there's also a third way, and that is to look ridiculously good, like me and you.
Yeah.
That's how we got over.
That's right.
Anyway, this was very fun. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
I know
man.
you guys are busy. I guess I'll throw one last question at you.
Great. So whatever you need.
No. Yeah, we'll clip this. We'll clip it. Revolution coming up this Sunday. One thing AEW has done is they go back to the 4 or 5 pay-per-view specials a year as opposed to 12 that a lot of companies have done for a very long time.
Right.
Makes the events big.
Sure.
Makes them huge.
Makes them special.
And I thought Revolution last year was the pay-per-view of the year. This is a very stacked card. Kenny Omega and the Exploding Death match against Moxley on top. The tag match of the Young Bucks against MJF and Jericho. What are your thoughts going into Revolution? What's Tony Schiavone thinking?
Well, to me, the matches that work and sometimes I don't. Obviously, I don't know this till I get into it. Is as the match is going along, I cease to become a wrestling announcer and become a fan.
Right.
I started really enjoying the match. It's like the Shaq match. I was a fan. I was really into it. I really think the exploding barbed wire death match is going to be that way because number one, I've never seen it. And I know how dangerous it is. I mean, really dangerous. You know, Omega and John Moxley, I mean, they'll do anything. It's been very obvious.
They're insane.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to anything the Young Bucks do has been great. So I'm looking forward to that. And I always look forward to the unexpected nature of a ladder match because that is so dangerous. And those kids think, we got it. Not always.
Well, the makeup of this one is fascinating. You've got your high flyers in there. You also have a guest spot, and then you have the Murder Hawk monster Lance Archer. Is just gonna, I assume, just going to be throwing ladders all over the place.
And of course, as wrestling announcers, we'll start out saying it's 12-foot ladder,
right?
But by the time it's over, it's going to be a 30-foot ladder,
28-foot, 30-foot ladder.
It right before your eyes, it gets bigger.
There will be death.
That's
will be
a 30-foot ladder. Didn't you just say 25? No, I didn't.
Right.
Okay.
I growing up, that was one of the things in wrestling. I was like, it would say he's 15 feet on the turnbuckle, like the other guy's standing on the ramp, and his waist is up there.
Right.
It's not really that.
Yeah.
So anyway, but this was very fun. Tony Schiavone, AEW announcer, Revolution this Sunday, Dynamite every Wednesday. 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central Time in God's country, which is Mississippi. Mississippi State beat Georgia in 2010. I'd like to remind you of that.
How's your head coach doing?
Well, we had a bad year to start, but he's weeding out the problems in the program. He's getting
I love his press conferences.
He is fantastic.
He's tremendous.
By the way, I asked you about Georgia last night. I don't know why I asked you right before the show. You were busy, but I think Georgia can win the national title this year.
Do you really?
JT Daniels is going to be really good.
Okay.
And George Pickens, they're going to be good. I know they say that every year, but I think this is actually the year for him. Anyway, sorry. Tony Schiavone was great. This is Rasslin on Barstool.